Well guys, Papa Pepper back once again, and today I'm going to be sharing with you one of our biggest homesteading mistakes. It's one that we definitely made, and I mean we've made a few of them, I'll say that. We didn't come into this life with a lot of knowledge pertaining to this life. I'm more of a doer. My wife's more of a researcher, but that said, while she's still looking at how to properly do something, I'm usually doing something else. And then of course there's the excitement. We dreamed of being able to have our own land and being able to do what we wanted with it. In the city where we lived, there was very little we could actually do. And you know, you could have some animals, but as long as they didn't provide meat, milk, or eggs, you know, they were okay. The ones that were useful on a different level were the ones that were usually banned. And right before we left, they even allowed us to have up to 4 chickens, no roosters, on your land, but you pretty much had to sign a waiver that would allow city officials at any point of the day to come on your land, you know, any hour of the night to come inspect, to make sure that you were up to all their legal, you know, guidelines for having chickens. And we're like, you know what, no, we're going to get rid of our quarter acre in the city. We're going to sell our $70,000 house. We're going to get out of all the debt that we have, and we're going to move out in the middle of nowhere where we still got some freedom. And we weren't sure if that freedom was really still available in the United States. We settled here in the Ozarks and figured if it is, this seems like the type of place that we could do the things that we wanted to, which is really just live a simple, connected life, provide more for ourselves, and have the freedom to use the resources available to us in a way that makes sense to us. That's really all it was. It's nothing too crazy. But with that excitement then, you do a lot of Craigslist shopping sometimes, other things, and a sheep breed that I had dreamed of was the Jacob sheep. They can have 2, 4, or 6 horns. They're like 60% white, 40% dark. They're a very interesting breed. And all of a sudden, some pretty good deals started coming up on some mediocre flocks. So I think the first time I went and got some, I went and got like a dozen of them. And I didn't have much fenced in. So what happened is I made a little fence for them, let them eat down what we had, and when that became like bare bone earth, I fenced in another area and let them do it again and again and again and again until pretty much the growing green food supply, pasture land type stuff available to our livestock was pretty much wiped out and decimated. Now there's still stuff that they can browse on and enjoy, and I like the Jacob sheep. They're kind of an unrefined breed. So we've got some out in the woods there, nibbling down some blackberry leaves and some other things, and there is a whole bunch of grass still growing up out over that way anyway. But behind me is one of those pastures that now is pretty much bare earth. And my advice to people is evaluate what land you actually have available. Get it fenced in and provide shelter first. Have it fenced in, get your shelter, okay? Use that excitement as some motivation to get those couple things done. And then when you get those things done, then pick up a number of animals that's less than what you think your land's going to be able to handle. And I say less for 2 reasons. Number 1 is if your calculations are wrong, it'll help out. Number 2 is animals will reproduce. So soon you could have more or twice as many or more than twice as many as you started off with just by having them reproduce. So now I've got a large section of pasture here, and I'm going to do this in a number of areas on my land. And we've planned this for quite some time. And the goal was always to improve it as much as we possibly could. Get a nice, healthy pasture land of like sainfoin and yarrow and birdfoot trefoil, you know, white clover, just a number of things that can grow in really good and thick and lush, and let them be there for our animals, and really take the rock and clay, minus the tiny topsoil that we've got here, and kind of add to it so that it's rich. It's vibrant, it's lush, it's growing, it's thriving, and really abundant. This section behind me, you can see I've got some hay in it already, and I've got this stuff here. We picked up all the big sticks. I want to chipper shred those and either use them as wood mulch in our garden or somewhere, or add it back to the pasture once it's chipper shredded. I've also got a ton of these buckets of little rocks. Those are going to be used on our gabions and our gabions on the perimeter fence, the rock pillars. I've got some big flat rocks, which are going to be great for a project I've got coming up. And we kind of pull all that stuff out of the pasture. And then back in here, I've got a couple other things. So the goal is to take down the fence that's out by my garden, because we're going to be expanding the garden. And we had the fence there so that the animals could keep the stuff eaten down around it and make it easier for us to progress to that area when the time permitted. Winter time is a good time to do that. That's when we're going to be doing that now. And then here behind me, I'm going to put that fence in, and we're going to spread some seed. I've got some Austrian winter peas, some winter rye, some yarrow, some other stuff I'm going to put in a mixed seed across here. Let that start growing up, and then I'm going to cover it with some straw. So the straw here is actually growing. It's some old kind of wet, rotting bales that I got for half price at the feed store. So a good way to save money. It's already kind of doing what I need it to do. And we're going to use that to prevent erosion, prevent all those seeds from getting swept away, and spread it out across here. So that's part of what I'm working on to fix my project. And I'm also going to be asking for your advice. So for me, I'm used to seeing this garden area a certain way. It looks very different out with the fence down. Pile of T-posts over there. Here's going to be the garden pond. And as we head up this way, we can notice some of the difference too. So this big old 4x4 square fencing is what I used to allow the animals to keep all this stuff trimmed down while also preventing them from coming into the garden. Over time, there's going to be a stretch around the perimeter that they can get down to the path, and it'll go down that way. A lot of this will be phased through and worked into garden area. You can see that they've done a really good job up here. Here's where the fence line was, and on this side everything's nibbled down. Here's one place that I wanted them to nibble it down to nothing, because then it makes it easy just to cover and mulch and begin building up my raised beds and stuff like that. So right here's where the fence was. You can see a lot of stuff growing up on this side. Over on this side, not so much. So we're gonna be rolling up this fence, taking it down there, blocking off what we can, and then building up the pasture. And that's one place that you guys are gonna come in too, because I know a lot of people out there do have a lot of experience, a lot of different thoughts on things. You don't mind helping, you don't mind sharing, you don't mind showing your wisdom. So the deal is, you've heard about my first plan. I do have a neighbor with a tractor and a tiller, and I could till the whole thing up. I'm not really looking to do that. I think I'm just going to build from the existing layer up. I'm going to allow a couple things to grow this winter, sow them now, cover them in some of that old straw, let them grow up this winter, let the animals nibble them down a bit in the spring, and then sow a different kind of some more perennial stuff, put some different stuff in there at that point, and then block the area back off, let that stuff grow up. And then, you know, there's like young plants, there's kind of in between plants, and there's old plants. And there is some heights where if a plant gets so big and you keep letting them just nibble it off from there, it doesn't stunt it enough that it takes forever to grow. But you don't wait for it to be a really old plant that's not really going to grow back. So that's going to be the goal, is to rotate them around enough that they're able to take good healthy plants, nibble a bit off of them, move them on to the next thing, and let those plants regrow while they're moving around. It's part of a rotational grazing that we're going to be putting into our property, but we're just not there yet. So any progress we can make is good. And any ideas you guys have, what's the best way to build up a pasture in your opinion? Should I be plowing the whole thing and sowing it like that? I'm going to be able to block off areas. I'm going to be able to do what I want with them. Eventually, I do plan on putting in some swales, adding some trees and some different stuff out there too. We'll get there, but I can block things off. I can do what I want. What's the best method in your opinion? And then also, what are some of the best plants you guys think? Some that I probably want are going to be things like sainfoin, are going to be things like birdfoot trefoil. I'm probably going to sow daikon radish and let those kind of plow down into the soil, and then, you know, die and kind of add to the biomass of the whole thing and kind of create better soil that way too. What are some of your ideas? Leave them in the comment section below. I will show a little bit about this, you know, in a minute, what it looks like, and I'll see you guys next time. You know, when you just roll this up and clip it to itself like this, that is the way to go because it's a lot easier to move around. I like that. So after all the extra practice I had at the end of 2019 getting my perimeter fence fenced in, those first 9 T-posts went in very quickly. Really, I just got to run it to the fence line here, but I'm going to stretch it tight first. So I'm going to go get my tool, stretch it tight, and then we will be seeding and covering this thing. So the cool thing was that fencing was like the perfect amount for this pasture, which is great. So I've got some Elbin rye I'm going to be putting in here. We've got a bunch of yarrow that I, seed heads, flower heads I got, and then some Austrian winter peas, that's what I'm going to spread, and then toss this straw on top of it. I'll give you a quick look at the pasture just so you can see. It's one of the few areas where brush hogs have been through here in the past. So it's one of the few areas that some grass was. If you look, you can see now it's mostly an amount of runoff. All the little stuff like that, you know, just runoff. A lot of manure. There's sticks and stuff chopped up, moss in areas, and then you can see right where the fence ends. That's what it would look like if nothing happened to it. It'd be about a variety of stuff up to about waist tall. So we're going to try to fix this issue, get something going here, and then just build this up over time. Probably use maybe some comfrey in the future, maybe some buckwheat. Other options for some big like chop and drops, maybe even sorghum sometimes works well. But like I said, you guys let me know what you think, and I'll hopefully get this spread here quick before sundown and be done with it. So a couple things, you can see kind of what I got done. One thing is fresh straw that's not all sopped and sprouting and stuff like that. A lot easier to spread. So the other stuff is cheaper, but it's harder to spread. My chipper shredder was up and running. That could help, but it's not. So here's what we got for a day. Sun's about to go down. I'm about to call her quits. Some of this grain is exposed. I don't like that. I'm sure the blackbirds will find it by morning. But we got some stuff. We'll see. Like I said, we're working on it. Let me know if you got any other advice. I'll talk to you guys later. Thanks for checking it out. Don't make the same mistakes I did. Papa out.